Warning, the views and opinions expressed in this presentation are those of the producer and those appearing in the show and do not necessarily represent the views of DerryCam, the Town of Derry, or any of its staff or affiliates. Hi, I'm Anthony Henry. Welcome back to America's Ass. We're on episode 37, and we have a bit of an experimental show today. We have 3 guests. I've never done that, but we're trying it. So I'll introduce them. We'll start with Emily Phillips. Please tell the audience about yourself.
Oh, wow, what a loaded question. I am a freshman representative from Fremont, New Hampshire. I served on the school board during the COVID pandemic, and I decided to run for state rep. And I serve Rockingham District 7. I have 3 children, and I actually run a business in Derry as well.
Nice.
I'm Tom Mannion, also a freshman rep. I moved to New Hampshire in 2020 to escape COVID tyranny of Massachusetts and decided to get involved as quickly as possible, so I got elected in 2022.
My name's Jack Webb. I'm a candidate for the Derry Town Council for the at-large seat. I'm a retired firefighter, paramedic, and battalion chief for Derry Fire Department, retired after 33 years in 2020.
All right, we'll get right into it. We're going to start with a very important bill that passed the House recently. Defend the Guard. So yes. I'll let you talk about it.
Awesome, thank you so much. So Defend the Guard, simply put, states that we will not allow a New Hampshire National Guard to be deployed to a combat zone without a formal declaration of war from Congress. It's super straightforward. The Congress has not declared war since the end of World War II, and they've been operating under these authorizations for use of military force, which is pretty much just a blank check, rubber stamp for the federal government or for the executive to do whatever they want around the planet. This is our way of reining that back in, especially when we have things like the border crisis and uprisings, things like that. We want our Guard here at home where they're going to be needed, not sent to foreign misadventures. Most recently, there was that air attack at Tower 22 in Jordan. There were Arizona National Guardsmen in that post, and Arizona is like up in arms about this. It has passed the Arizona Senate, and it has passed the Idaho Senate this week, and there was a proposition in Texas that their Republicans are allowed to vote what the priorities of the party will be at the state legislature level, and that passed with 83% of the Republican primary voters. This is a winning issue.
And it's a bipartisan issue for the most part as
well.
Yes,
in New Hampshire specifically. Yeah. We do have a nice little cluster. There was 22 Democrats in the State House helped push this across the line when 26 of our side, the Republicans, broke ranks. They weren't going to vote for this for whatever reason. So we did build a coalition. Myself and Representative Phillips here, we've worked across the aisle. We located those anti-war Democrats that believe in something like this and are willing to vote against their party to defend the Guard.
And 2 of those representatives that voted against this bill were from Derry.
Yes.
That would be Richard Tripp and Dave Mills.
Thank you.
I think he's memorized the list of people who...
I've read it.
Yeah. I also have it committed to memory.
Yes.
There's going to be a primary coming.
Yeah, so that was a very exciting bill to watch be debated on the floor.
Yes.
There was passion on both sides, I think.
Yeah, it's contentious. Like it's one of those things. Like the threat from the federal government, as with all things, whenever we step out of line, the states is they're going to withhold funding. It's a nonsense threat. But we have Congressman Thomas Massie on record about this bill in particular, who has come out and stated the Congress is the one who writes the budget. It is not up to the Department of Defense to just unilaterally defund it. And any congressman that's going to put their name on a dotted line that defunds a state guard is done for. It's political suicide. It's not only political suicide for voting against something that's universally popular, but it's also makes the country weaker. If you're going to defund the New Hampshire National Guard, we are a border state with Canada, and we also help provide air support across the North Atlantic. To defund ours as retribution because Congress won't do their job is absolutely asinine. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. And this bill does have endorsements of several National Guardsmen, correct?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a couple. Derek Pruse, like the activist in the state, former National Guardsman, and he was found himself, deployed forward in questioning what his mission was. That's what a lot of these guys, like myself, I come from the Marine Corps, and I was deployed to Iraq twice, and I had to question, like, why am I here? Like, what is the purpose of this? Like, I was young, naive, and I enlisted to fight bin Laden. I ended up in Iraq and all that. And it's like over 20 years, the Guard has been supplementing these over 4 deployed forces in Iraq and Syria and Kuwait and all these areas left out in Jordan to get air attacked. And it's there's like a reckoning coming. As soon as this bill passed out of the House floor, Dave Love, another rep, told me that one of his constituents reached out to him and asked him to thank me personally for getting this across the line. So. Like the brass down in the Pentagon don't like it, but all of the low enlisted folk, like I was, a sergeant in the Marine Corps, they support things like this.
Yeah, Dave Love is a former guest of this show, and I know he was very excited about the bill. Representative Phillips, you said that you had a couple wins at the State House today. So go ahead.
Excuse us. This is my son, Teddy. Sometimes we have to bring our children to the State House, and I happened to be execing a bill on the Child Care Committee today, and it was so funny because I didn't have child care, so I brought him with me. So here we are. Tom and I, many months ago, before we even drafted legislation, I think we started talking in a chat and said, let's try to pull in like-minded, bipartisan reps to help pass legislation like Defend the Guard. I think initially it was just Defend the Guard that we were focused on, so we were looking at people who were anti-war, progressives, free thinkers, willing to not fall in line with what leadership or the establishment would want. So we've been kind of discussing a lot of bills, and 2 bills today passed committee that I feel are bipartisan, but maybe don't fall on, kind of upset the Republican side, upset Democrats on both sides, but you kind of find the common ground. So today I had a bill that's for medical aid in dying. It's HB 1283, which allows people with 6-month prognosis of lifespan left to have 2 medical healthcare providers sign off on their cognitive ability and that their prognosis is 6 months, and they can basically obtain a medication that they can self-administer and end their life. So instead of going down the route of like hospice and then being morphine to death and starved and dehydrated, they can choose to do that. The other states have similar bills, so it's very contested. And I see the angle on both sides, but for me, it's a liberty issue. I'm very much in the medical freedom, body autonomy, liberty space, and so this fit my lane as far as that goes. So I'm a sponsor of that bill. So that went by committee. I want to say it was like 13-7, which is better than we expected. So that will go to the House floor next week. So originally I thought that there was a chance it would be either 10-10 or it would not come out as recommended at all. So that's a win. And then I also put in a bill to remove routine infant circumcision from Medicaid reimbursement, and that is passed in like 14 or 17 other states. So that's another liberty, medical freedom. It's not your body, not your choice. And so without a medical need, circumcision shouldn't be covered because it's not medically necessary. So for me, those are big wins. I was in the car just kind of listening to the committee votes. Everything is just toppled on top of each other at the State House, right? There's so many things going on that it's hard to keep track. So sometimes when you get these little wins, you're kind of thrilled. So again, that was a bipartisan. I had Democrats on both those bills, and it's just nice to see us coming together to support things that are good for most of what New Hampshire wants. Because New Hampshire's in the middle. Nobody's extreme, right? Like an average New Hampshire citizen is not, on extreme left or extreme right. They all want what's in the middle, and that's what these bills represent. So.
Yeah. Crossover is happening. Has crossover happened yet?
No, that in April, I believe.
Okay.
I believe. I'd have to double check the date.
What are some things to watch in crossover?
Well, we never know what the Senate's going to send us our way. I'd have to look at the calendar to see what they're going to send over our way. I know that the stuff that we're sending to them, obviously, like we have stuff like Defend the Guards going over there. Cannabis is another big issue that's with
That's
like
every year.
Like she was describing, like we have in the middle of the people. Anytime I run into folks on the street, it's like the issue that the people that aren't plugged into politics ask about when cannabis. Like we have it medically. Like I live on a border town down in Pelham, and if you go over to that Tingsboro dispensary, we're literally losing revenue to that business that's right in the Tingsboro line. And I know that that's going to be contentious in the Senate because they don't like the one that we kicked out. That's going to go to finance, and then it's got to go across the Senate. That's a big one from our side that's going over there. I'm currently trying to work with the senators on Defend the Guard as well in parallel. We got to see how they're going to approach that. That's a different issue.
So one thing I'll ask regarding weed, and this was actually brought up in Derry about a year or two ago. then Council Chair Josh Borden wanted to bring in, wanted to, push for weed to be legal, especially for dairy to use as property tax relief.
Yes, exactly.
That was
yeah.
one of his ideas, and
Yep.
he worked with Representative Erica Leon about
Yep.
it. And Councilman Borden was a Democrat, and Representative Leon is a
Yep.
Republican. So it is bipartisan. Personally, I'm split on weed.
That's- yep.
I see pros and cons to it.
Yep.
It's an issue at Pinkerton where I go, I'll tell you
Yep.
that. There's been at least 5 drug busts at Pinkerton this year alone. Well, I should say last year. There was one instance I remember, and I might have talked about this on the show, where like 5 cop cars pulled up and they pulled 10 kids out of one of the bathrooms. And you can still see smoke coming out of their
Yeah.
mouths, but
Yeah, even the cannabis supporters aren't going to be okay with like children doing it. No,
Yeah.
none of the cannabis people are okay with children doing it, especially not on school property, things
Yeah.
like that. That's nobody's in favor of that. Exactly what you described though is like definitely property tax relief. Like either it goes to the education trust fund. There was like I think the original draft of Erica Leon's current bill was it was going to help fund down that pension liability balloon that's just floating out there that for all the state employees. That is a huge debt bubble that's just floating out there. But that wasn't going to make it out of the Senate. They'd rather it go to like either the education trust fund or something to help bring down swept taxes and things like that. And at this point, it's completely up in the air because I don't think the Senate's going to pass the current iteration of the bill. So something's going to happen to it. Like trying to talk about the current bill and whether it's like how it's going to get implemented it's a big question mark because the Senate doesn't like the current iteration of the bill. That's my understanding. So.
And speaking of dairy, Mr. Webb, you're running in a contentious election for the town council. So speak about that election. And we did have a somewhat contentious town council meeting last night. So love to hear your takes on it.
So one of the questions I was asked at the public forum was, where does the money go? And pardon me if I look at my phone, but I have some notes on it. And my challenge to a lot of people is, everybody talks about their dollar per thousand or their tax bills. Well, if you want to know where your money goes, really look at your tax bill. And for example, the town of Derry is is divided in 2. You have the Derry School District, which is a cooperative school district, and you have the municipality of Derry. Municipality of Derry is governed underneath a tax cap. So in 2023, the tax rate was $5.94. That was up from $5.68 the year before. When you look at your tax bills, look at it from, because the question was, where does your money go? Look at the town services, which will be one part of it, be listed as municipal. Then it'll be local school, will be listed as another portion. Your state education assessment will be last, and your county assessment. So it's very easy to say that, oh, I don't like where this is going, where that is going. Educate yourself and look at where your money is actually going and how it is actually being spent. The town of Derry currently has a tax rate of $20.68, and $5.94 is municipal, $12.67 goes to the schools, $1.41 for state education, and 66 cents to Rockingham County to provide these services. So on a local level, where does your money go? Well, local governments, like many, is roughly 70% personnel. 30% goes to capital projects or operating expenses. Some departments are a little bit different. Public Works, lower in personnel, much higher in projects. Roads are expensive. Fire and police are roughly 87 to 88% personnel costs. So when you ask where your money's going, it's going to provide these services, which is provided by people. And that's the biggest part of my platform is I believe in people over things.
And I think it's the best platform you could have in local government. There's no room for party politics in local government. And I hate looking at local government like, 2 parties, but in some ways it's become that. And it's people like you that are, to have your opinions, but you don't let them show in meetings that are going to, have a successful local government with low taxes, normal, policies, stuff like that.
Because local government is about working for the community. And yes, as a town council, you may get involved in issues at a state or county level, but those would be specific to affect your communities. Councilor McEachern brought up a really good point at the council meeting last night when he was talking about the state apportionment of the tax bill. And a lot of people have said, you know, we need to increase the amount of money we get from the state. Well, that state money, that increase comes from increasing the state apportionment. So it really is taking money out of your left pocket to put into your right pocket.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to looking at and understanding where your money goes.
And we're getting our tax bills relatively soon.
Yep.
What should people look for?
I would look at, again, just what I went over. Look at the municipal, because the tax bills will be coming out in June, typically the first week of June. Look at what the municipal portion is. Look at what the school portion is. And also look at it when you go vote on Tuesday. You know, it's frustrating to see when you have 13,000 out of 19,000 people vote for a presidential primary, but we'll be lucky to get 1,200 people to vote at a local election. And that really impacts the services that you receive, the education that your kids get, because that's where you can make your decisions. And look at your tax bill. Ask yourself, am I happy with this? And vote accordingly. Derry has a strong history of wanting to support local services, but be fiscally responsible about them. It's why Derry has had a tax cap since the 90s.
And a good example of that would be 2015.
Yeah, so in 2015, there was a town council that was sort of hostile to what the citizens in town wanted. They voted to eliminate 8 firefighter positions, 4 police officer positions, 2 public works, and a director of human resources. Also, it caused a temporary shutdown of a fire station. And the town charter has a method in which people can petition the council to ask them to change their mind. And they did that, but were ignored by the current council, who instead took it to court. Lost in court, but people had to pay money for that. A lot of volunteers donated money, and they were money right from this community. Went to a special election that was overturned by an overwhelming majority at the special election, and the people that supported that action in the town council were not reelected when they ran. And it goes back to the fact that town has always wanted to support local services. A similar thing, those in town may remember this, but back in the early to mid 90s, Derry had a mayoral form of government. There's a mayor and council, part-time mayor, and she decided to really limit services, cut services. One of the areas that she looked at was public works. So you saw the quality of roads go down. What happened is that people want to see value for their money. They were not happy with the quality of roads. So what they did is they charter commission and changed the entire town government because roads had gone downhill and other services were being attacked. And that doesn't mean that there's an open checkbook for town services. No, it means that they have to be fiscally appropriate. And with Derry operating on a tax cap, one of the things I talked about was that it forces, and I know this from personal experience from having worked under the fire department budget, it forces you, it doesn't handcuff you, it forces you to be innovative. And you see that in things like the Net Zero Committee for the town of Derry and the revenue that that potentially may bring in. You see that in recently a bill that's up at the legislature on wastewater billing to out-of-town consumers. And there are a variety of other ways that you can look at trying to increase revenue because that's what balances the tax cap.
And I'd like to point out that your opponent was the chair of the town council in 2015. And I'm not knocking Tom. Tom Cardin's an incredibly nice guy. I like him a lot. I get along really good with him. But still, he was chair of the town council when that happened, and he did push for that.
That's correct. And that's one of the primary reasons why I'm running. I've been in town long enough that I have a longer memory. And Tom is a nice guy. He's done a lot of great work on the net zero tax as a member of the net zero task force. But again, people want to see good value for their money, but they also want to see a good value in services.
So what are you, on the school side, what are you expecting to come out on the school warrant articles?
It was a very interesting presentation before the town council last night. I think everybody should look at that. I don't think that warrant articles are going to succeed. And it goes again into my philosophy of people over things. I think they need to communicate their needs better. I think they need to communicate the plan better. And there's another thing that's going to happen next year. So if I'm not even going to talk about the fiscal end of things. Jim McEachern did a great job of talking about the fiscal impact to the town. And it's a little bit frightening. But if the school district passes the school, for example, that's going to be a significant hit on our taxes. And I'm not certain of the value yet. I have more convincing that has to be done. But next year, you also have the teachers coming up for their contract. And that's going to cause an increase too. People are going to be looking at this massive increase they just get from the new school, and now you're going to ask them to increase to support teachers. So the teachers are going to get whacked by the new school. And the reality is that we don't always remember the classroom other than the clock. How much time left? But what we do remember is our teachers and the quality of the education we got from our interaction. Going back to grade school, I remember some of my grade school teachers quite vividly, and the care and commitment that they have. And those are the people that we need to support.
I agree. Tom, so
Yes.
what are some other exciting bills that are coming up? We have a couple sessions coming up in the next few weeks.
I mean, there's everything. So one of the ones we just actually passed, which was super exciting, was the education freedom accounts have been increased to 500% federal poverty level.
I did see that one.
That was a huge win, considering that was a battle when we were doing the budget and we were taking things in and out, and we had to figure out whether we had the numbers to pass it or not. The federal budget, we ended up increasing it to 350% as a give for our side, but that 500% is fantastic. Sadly, two other provisions that would have allowed it to, if your child was bullying, you'd have access as well, regardless income cap. Those didn't make it through. But with the tied house, it's so difficult to get anything through right now. Tomorrow, oh man, we got 45 bills tomorrow. It's gonna be another long day, just like last time. We actually have we're doing a shot clock type thing to whoever's speaking. It's keep your speeches under 3 minutes, please. And science, tech, and energy, they tend to go long. Education goes long. So we're going to see, tomorrow's going to be another long one, and then we're probably going to be doing that all the way to crossover, long days, because we filed 800 something bills this past year. It's incredible.
I'm sure the Derry School Board will be attacking that bill on our meeting Monday. You're invited if you want to come watch and defend yourself. But going back to Derry, as I've lamented over the past month or two, and like I am today, because this is going to be the last episode coming out before the election. It's this Tuesday. It came up quick. This is a very important election if you really want to stay in Derry long term, I'd say, for a few years. Taxes are going to go up if the warrant articles are passed. So for candidates, I've made my endorsements before on the show, but I'll do it again. Councilor at Large, Jack Webb. District 1 Councilor Erin Spencer, she is amazing. School Board, Katie DeLay and Wilbert Danger. Very important that we elect both of them. They are unopposed, but there is a write-in who is backed by many members of the current school board, many PTA people, maybe even the teachers union.
Imagine that.
So we need to get Katie DeLay and Wilbert Danger into the school board. For district moderator, Representative Erica Leon.
Yes.
Two-time guest of the show. For town moderator, even more important, Dave Nelson. We need someone fair and impartial to run our elections. Dave Nelson is as fair and impartial as they come. And he's been on the show as well, a few episodes back. His opponent, Jim Marshall, is very far to the left. And as I've said earlier in this show, we can't have anyone on an extreme side in any local office, I don't think. There's no room for it. If you're going to be in a local office, you need to be there to do work for your constituents, because this is on a much lower level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. I shouldn't say lower, but...
No, it's important.
yeah.
Local things are very important, and like the amount of people like in my town, I see like I drive through. If you ever drive through Pelham, it's just like all of those front yards are just like plastered with federal office signs. It's all Trump stuff, like up and down through Pelham, and it's just like if all of those people could show up and vote on Tuesday, like our property taxes would finally go down, and all the complaining that you're doing on Facebook, we can do something about.
And that's another thing. There's been a lot of Facebook stuff on about this election, but as Mr. Webb pointed out, probably going to be low turnout. And then people are going to be complaining, and then they have themselves to blame. And on the warrant articles, as I've said, no on 1 through 6, yes on 7. Warrant Article 7 would undo the closure of Derry Village, and it would undo the grade maneuvering or restructuring. Tom, you don't know, so our school board voted to... So we have 2 middle schools, 6, 7, 8. They voted to take 5th grade out of the elementary schools, make one of the middle schools 5 and 6 and the other 7 and 8, which is going to crowd those 2 middle schools a lot. And public did not like it very much. It still passed 5-2 on the school board. Whatever.
What's their reason?
Honestly...
I always like to hear the other argument.
I've lost track of their reasoning.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, we're just about out of time, so feel free to give any closing statements. We'll start with you, Tom.
So the bill number, for those that want to look into it, it's HB 229. It is in the Senate. They haven't scheduled a public hearing yet. I was kind of hoping we'd have a date by now so I could be like, go show up and do this. Reach out to your state senator. That'd be fantastic. Reach out to if you're a member of the VFW or American Legion or something, or one of those veteran organizations, let them know that you support this. Those organizations are being, I think, coerced by the Deputy Adjutant General up at the State Veterans Advisory Committee to be in opposition of this. As a member of these, and I've been to American Legions pushing this and VFWs pushing this, their member base supports this. It's the leadership up top, like all things. If you have bad leadership at top, it sours things. So if you're a member of those, reach out to your Legion, reach out to your VFW, let them know you support this. Reach out to your senator, HB 229.
Defend the Guard.
Defend the Guard.
And Mr. Webb?
It doesn't matter whether you support me or Tom or anything. I want you to take a look at your tax bills, and I want everybody to go out and vote on Tuesday. Bring your friends, carpool, however you want. It'd be wonderful to see 10,000 people show up for a local election. The last time we had more than a couple of thousand was in 2015 for the special election. We had 6,000 people come out and support the town, and that's what you're doing. Come, vote, support the town. Thank you.
And Representative Phillips did have to leave for her son. I'm sure she sends best thoughts. So, as Mr. Webb said, the election is this Tuesday, March 12th, from 7 to 8, I believe. Is that right? 7 to 8?
Correct.
And it'll be at Pinkerton Academy. So, please do not make the next episode a sad one. Make it a celebratory episode. I want to win at every angle. I'm Anthony Henry. This has been America's Ass. Thank you for watching.